All right, so non-functional aspects of Kotlin. So let's first explain the topic. So what does this non-functional mean? Imagine that you buy a car, and primarily you think about its speed, the comfort of driving, the range, maybe the color. But in reality, you also need to consider several other factors like how costly it is to maintain, how easy it is to get the spare parts, or like who can fix it if it breaks. So by non-functional, I mean all this stuff that is not really connected with the with using of Kotlin, like not its fancy features, but for example, if there's a bug, who can take care of this and how fast it will happen, or what's the community support. So I tried to come up with such aspects here. I had this little brainstorming and I came up with these ones. And for today, I prepared short descriptions of 3 of them that, in my opinion, are pretty important and are crucial when you decide to introduce Kotlin in your team. But if you have any if you want me to discuss any other topic, or if you want to have like a discussion in a bigger, in a few people, just please let me know about the topic on Slido. We can take a look at this at the end. So first, let's talk about the support, both the official from JetBrains and from community. So this is a screenshot from Kotlin's webpage, and it tries to show different layers of support and like parts of the community that JetBrains tries to facilitate. And today I wanted to focus on these 2 parts, so the Slack space that they maintain and the issue tracker, because it's basically, in my case, actually, these are the 2 places that I visit the most when I need some help or share some ideas. So first, the issue tracker. They use uTrack that is open to everyone that has an account there, and you can also authenticate with like GitHub or any other IDP. It's open, so you can create the bug, you can comment on existing bugs, give some thumbs up. And why I say about this is because, for example, when I wanted to report an issue in Java, it wasn't that smooth. I had to fill out some form and wait for an email confirming that the bug was accepted or not. And there was no way to contact the developers like in the comments. So their issue tracker is sort of open, like read-only, right? You cannot interact with the bugs. I checked several other programming languages like Python, and their issue tracker is open like in Kotlin. So maybe Java is just decided to went a different path. But just to let you know, in Kotlin, you can create a bug. And what's also nice is that they triage it within several days. I'm a pretty active bug reporter, or like issue reporter, idea reporter, whatever you want. And I always got some feedback, whether like, okay, it's already fixed in this version, okay, it's a duplicate. So I don't feel like these issues go into vacuum. That's pretty great, and I feel understood as someone that found some issue. And the Slack space, they have a lot of channels, and they like attempted to divide it into different topics, both the parts of Kotlin and also the libraries. And also, for example, in Ktor, it's nice because they hired a support engineer. So each message in this channel is basically accompanied with the support engineer's answer. So it's a matter of several hours tops if you get this answer. It's really cool to have this like safety net and someone that can actually give you some first idea what's wrong with your code or if something's possible. Of course, plus the community is there to help you. And apart from the JetBrains maintained channels, you can also create your own channel. For example, I maintain this library that aims at creating GitHub workflows in Kotlin. So I was just able to request a channel. Others can join. It's just a regular Slack channel. It's really cool. So I would actually, if you have a problem with Kotlin, I would recommend going to the Slack first. To have access there, you need to go to Kotlin's webpage and request access to this. It takes like 1 or 2 days tops. The second topic is about the evolution process and how Kotlin tackles backward compatibility. So first, let's start with a brief description how versioning and release process looks like. Recently, Kotlin switched to this scheme where Kotlin is still versioned with like 1 dot version, and then this feature release comes after the dot. So now we have version 1.6.10. It means that the recent feature release has number like 6, and then the incremental release is already the second one in this feature release. And in general, the general approach is that in the feature releases, they publish major additions, plus they tend to deprecate stuff. I noticed, right? So this is the moment. It happens every about half a year, 6 months, and if you bump your project to a higher version in terms of this orange number, then you typically need some more attention than in this incremental releases. And also about deprecating stuff and removing them eventually, I noticed that it happens only with some non-stable APIs. With only maybe one exception, they made a change in how some readline function in the standard library works, but it was also well communicated. And also, if you take a look at how other languages tackle breaking changes, it's not a simple question. What's the sweet spot here? Because on one end we can say, okay, let's keep backward compatibility forever, but on the other hand, it keeps the language or whatever there is, it keeps it from evolving. So I think Kotlin has reached this sweet spot where it can evolve and remove any inconvenient APIs and behaviors, and can still provide and innovate, basically. And this is an example from standard library where like the first step of removing some API happens. So they added this Kotlin Deprecated annotation and announced that it will be removed in some let's say 1.7. And what's interesting here is that the deprecated annotation not only has the message, but also includes some hints for the IDEs how this deprecation should be addressed by the developer. So by seeing it in the IDE, it's highlighted, and you get this suggestion when you press Alt-Enter to just replace this occurrence with a new API. It's really convenient, and also next to that, they provide Intellij migrations. So if you use the new version of Kotlin, it says, hey, I detected that there are some migrations with this version of Kotlin to run. Do you want me to run them on your project? Yes or no? And then this way you can cope with these changes automatically. It's really cool. About the evolution process, so the approach of adding some new stuff. There's also this keep, like in Java, we have JEP, right? Java Evolution Process. Here it's something similar, basically a set of documents where someone can formalize their idea and have a discussion, either in issues or in whatever else. Yeah, and it's alive, it's there, you can propose your idea. It's probably a good idea before you start a keep to share your idea on some Slack or Kotlin forum, just to get some initial feedback. But yeah, Kotlin has this kind of process. And the third piece I wanted to talk about is adoption by the industry, plus opinions that will come in a second. So obviously Kotlin is said to be the primary language for Android. And even though I'm not an Android developer, and Kotlin plays really well in the backend, and not only, I'm saying this because it has a major consequences, positive ones, because it like adds some fuel to the community. And Google, as a large company, they also create stuff like KSP, for example. So it has really nice consequences. And not only Google adopted this in such way. We have, for example, Gradle, which publishes its Kotlin DSL. Also, Spring is like from version 5 supports Kotlin as first-class citizen, basically. So it's not like some niche language that is still starting. It's already actually 10 years old, and it can be seen by looking at these large companies. And recently, AWS published a developer preview of their SDK for Kotlin. It now supports only Java and like Android Java, but in the future they're planning to support also other platforms. So it will be like truly Kotlin multi-platform library. I kind of like looking at some graphs. Not always they are really meaningful. But let's go example by example. So Stack Overflow trends is connected with the number of questions about some tag, and some people look at this graph and say, okay, Kotlin is like getting more popular. Well, to be really precise, Kotlin is getting popular in the questions on Stack Overflow. So it may mean different things. For example, people are getting more problems with Kotlin. So maybe Kotlin gets more problematic, or if more people use Kotlin and the problematicity factor remains the same, it means that the Kotlin becomes more popular. So this metric needs to be taken with a grain of salt. I still perceive it as a positive one because if some question is asked like a certain amount of time, the feedback may be incorporated into the language, and it's actually a good thing that these questions are asked, because there's this hope of the feedback loop, right? That it goes back to the language. But yeah, the trend is pretty increasing. Looking at the PyPL, which bases on the number of tutorials that are found in some major search engines, and here the scale is logarithmic, so it's and the trend is not like almost linear like you would see on Stack Overflow trends, but it's increasing. Well, it means that there are more and more tutorials out there, which is also like questionable. Well, people need more content to learn this difficult language, or maybe it's getting more interest, and maybe different kinds of tutorials, different points of view are shared there. So there's certainly more and more like happening around Kotlin in terms of tutorials. And this TOB index, well, it places Kotlin behind the top 10. It's in the 28th place. And I'm not really sure what's their approach. Apart from that, they try to assess the number of professionals that can handle a given language, number of jobs. And as I read some criticism about TOB, it's really hard to comment on, because if you see what languages are like equal to Kotlin on this list or even above, I wouldn't use this metric to say if it's like worth to learn this language or if it's a cool language. It's some artificial metric sort of established in the industry, but not sure if it's well understood even by the creators. But I just wanted to share these numbers. But well, there's this Stack Overflow developer survey announced every year, and in last year's edition, there was this most popular section and most loved and dreaded. I will show the other numbers in a sec. So here you see that Kotlin, well, maybe it's not that popular as, for example, Python or Java, but given that it's pretty young, it's like 10 years old, Java is over a quarter of like century old. It's not that bad. It's not like 0%. So that's this. And about the opinions, wow, it's a really like wide scale of emotions here. The most popular positive opinion that I know about is this Jake Wharton's like paper, but that he wrote after learning about Kotlin and its possible use for Android. Well, it's just like 20-something pages describing great features, and it's funny because it has these introductions like the sexy language, this fancy feature. So it's really opinionated, but yeah, it has some points that Kotlin addresses major Java's shortcomings. You can read it yourself under like this link on Google Docs. On the other end, we have an article from Allegro that says from Java to Kotlin and back again. So it's completely on the other side because it criticizes even the flagship features. It says that, for example, null safety is all that cool, but hey, this syntax is really annoying. And for example, it criticizes even the order of argument and the name without even trying to understand why the authors made this decision. So under this article, there's like a lot of discussion, even really emotional. But I just wanted to show you that that there are people that actually maybe not hate, but decided not to like Kotlin more and just stay with Java. Yeah, and these are the numbers I mentioned a second ago. So, well, the majority of people prefer like Kotlin more than don't like it. This is out of context from the other languages. Java is somewhere at the bottom, Rust somewhere at the top, along with Python. So just to summarize and try to condense all these opinions from both ends into one short list. Well, yes, Kotlin addresses multiple issues in Java, and with the fact that it does this, it provides more power and with more power comes more responsibility. So you can make more mess if you don't have some rules, if you don't if you don't do code review. It's not that extreme like with Perl or Scala, where they allow you to override any like character as your custom operator, or has some 5 character operators, but still it's not that simple as Java. The simplicity of Java is a good thing in some cases and for some people. The learning curve, well, Kotlin was designed to be an easy to learn language for folks from, for example, Java, and from like Karoli braces languages. And for example, for me, it was, but I know some opinions that they actually find it really confusing. It's rather from people that tend to stay with Java, and like that's enough for them. So maybe it's about the some more general approach of trying new things or not. But yeah, these are two different like ends of this kind of opinion. And the interop with Java, which is also like a flagship feature of Kotlin, it's much better than in other languages, but you still have to keep in mind in some edge cases, like if you are a library author and you want your library to be consumed from a Java project, you need to think about this explicitly, because Kotlin has some extra constructs that Java doesn't have. There are ways to like map them back to Java, but you need to think about this. So it's not like hassle-free. It's just made really easy, in my opinion. Yeah. And now let me take a look if you have any other topics to discuss. Is it possible to write more advanced code migrations that are triggered with the deprecated annotation? Well, that's actually a good question, and I don't know. For now, I only saw this API in the deprecation annotation just to replace this given like name with another one, and additionally be able to add some extra imports. So maybe some fancier stuff like replacing some placeholders or like regex is possible, but I haven't looked into this yet. But that's a good question. I may want to. Oh, Piotr, you have a question.
Yeah, this was actually my question, but
okay.
I was asking because there is a way in Intellij to do like a structural search and replace.
Yes.
And for a time it wasn't possible to use this in Kotlin, but I think it is now possible to use this in Kotlin, right?
Yeah, I'm aware of this feature of Intellij, but I'm not sure how it like integrates with Kotlin compiler or like IDE. We can check that if you want, but maybe after the meeting, because it can take some time. I will do my best to share the outcome in the comments under the video, because that will be actually interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So there are no other ideas for like aspects to discuss. So thanks a lot.